Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video, we're taking a look at some fun battles from the Ultra League featuring an unexpected Pokemon, and that is Psywave Lunatone. These battles were submitted to the channel by a member of the community, Kiro, so many thanks for the battle submission. Now, to be honest, I had forgotten, outside of Miss Magius and of course Malamar, that any other Pokemon learned Psywave, but as it turns out, Lunatone does have access to that move. So today, we'll get to see it in battle in the Ultra League. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches, and we're off to a fiery start in match number 1, the Battle of Glass Cannons, Pangoro versus Shadow Typhlosion. Pangoro farming up a ton of energy. That's a beautiful catch and a sneak, catching the move onto Licky Licky and sneaking a free rollout. Typhlosion is going to stay in, rebank a Thunder Punch for later, and now they're going to send in Guzzlord. Guzzlord hitting the field is a bit uncomfortable here for the Licky Licky, as Licky Licky's Shadow Ball is heavily resisted, so it's forced to go for Body Slam, which just doesn't hit particularly hard. Licky Licky farming up quite a bit. Guzzlord finally going to fire off some energy. Guzzlord goes for a brutal swing. It does not KO. We're going to see an aggressive switch back into Pangoro, and close combat will be reached. Close combat into the Guzzlord is going to pick up the KO. Back in comes Typhlosion, and Typhlosion will immediately be met with close combat number 2 from the Panda. Pangoro is going to get fully farmed down, does have a move on the Licky Licky. The opponent, I guess they just didn't tap their move. They had a move, they just don't click the move. They're going to switch into Giratina. The Body Slam is thrown to burn the switch clock. And now, the star of the show, or I guess I could say the moon of the show, but that doesn't really make any sense. Lunatone hits the field of play. Lunatone is going to be shielding up the Dragon Claw. Lunatone, these Psywaves are absolutely adding up quite a bit on this Giratina. Lunatone, after farming up quite a bit, is now going to go for the Moonblast. Moonblast will inflict massive super effective damage. Giratina barely hangs on. In comes Typhlosion, and Typhlosion is going to be firing off a move. It is going to be the Thunder Punch, and Typhlosion is now going to get knocked out by the Rock Slide. Thanks to Psywave's quick pacing, down goes Typhlosion, and down goes Giratina, and Lunatone starts off the video with a double KO. Picking up a good lead in the next match, Pangoro versus Shadow Feraligatr, and this is how I like to play out this lead. Never baiting as the Pangoro, because you have identical pacing, you always win the CMP tie, and even if you're debuffed, they're never going to be able to farm you down. Pangoro is going to shield up the Hydro Cannon, opponent save switches into a Pidgeot, and my goodness, that is an incredibly risky save switch from the opponent, and it's going to be punished by a Licky Licky switch in. Body Slam is going to connect. Opponent throwing on alignment, giving a free rollout as they go for the Feather Dance, just trying to slow the roll of the Licky Licky as quickly as possible. Licky Licky is going to go for the Body Slam. Body Slam, it's 2 stages debuffed. It's not going to do a lot. Another Body Slam is reached. This might not even KO either. The Body Slam is going to land, and Pidgeot tanks out on very low HP. Pidgeot is going to make the Brave Bird. That's going to pick up the knockout. In comes Pangoro to get the Karate Chop down. In the back is Zygarde. Opponent is going to switch into Feraligatr, and they get the catch, and that's a devastating catch. Oh my goodness, you really do not want to see that if you're the Pangoro, as you need all this energy if you're going to deal with Zygarde. Lunatone hits the field of play. Psywaves slowly chipping away at the incredibly bulky Zygarde. They're on Bulldoze. Bulldoze, even when it's super effective, is a laughably terrible move, and they still have 2 shields to hide behind. So as Lunatone, you can pretty safely go for Rock Slides. Opponent is going to fire off another Bulldoze. Lunatone with the no shield. That's still not going to KO. Lunatone gets to the Rock Slide. That is absolutely massive. Is the opponent going to shield here? No, they let it go. Pangoro needs the farm down, or the double up gets the farm down, and you always love to see when a Zygarde gets defeated by a spicy team. We actually see same leads in the next match, but this time the Feraligatr is non-Shadow. Again, you're going to want to basically play this the same way. Just go straight close combat. I do typically like just CMP tying the Feraligatr more often than not. Here we're going to see an overfarm, and that close combat is being launched at Feraligatr. Feraligatr is going to no shield. We now see a switch into the Licky Licky. Could have potentially thrown the Night Slash to deny their energy or to force a shield, and now out comes Annihilape and this is going to be a massive problem as this team is very ABA weak to Annihilape. The opponent commits the shield, and them throwing here is a pretty big mistake on their part. They could have farmed down, but the opponent was not counting, and now that actually puts Kiro back into this game. In comes the Lunatone. Lunatone will take massive super effective damage from Rage Fist, so we are going to see a shield. Lunatone, these Psywaves are adding up, going for the Rock Slide, just needing whatever damage is possible. Opponent is going to no shield, calling it. We see a switch into Pangoro. At worst, this is going to be a boosted Ice Punch. The opponent didn't react in time, and it is actually going to be a Rage Fist instead. Night Slash by the Pangoro will be able to KO Annihilape. Annihilape commits the shield, gets the farm down. Lunatone gets a farm down of its own. The opponent in the back, they have a Drapion, and unfortunately, this is just not a winnable game. That is very, very tough, as Lunatone had a bit of energy, but Moonblast, it's just not KOing Drapion at full HP. We've got a very surprising Pokemon on the lead in the next match. Pangoro into Kanto Muck. I see a safe switch into Lunatone. Opponent is going to respond with a Guzzlord. Oh no. Please tell me. Moonblast. One hit KO. Down goes Guzzlord. Opponent in absolute shambles. And they will immediately concede the match. Oh my goodness. Very bad lead in the next match. Pangoro versus Virizion. Virizion is a huge core breaker for this team as it absolutely crushes both Pangoro and Licky. Pangoro goes for the close combat, but unfortunately timing it the way they did is actually going to give a free double kick to Virizion. And now that might mean that Virizion can actually make a second move here. It's going to be close. They're going to switch out into Ampharos. And it's actually a purified Ampharos. This should be the Brutal Swing coming out from the Ampharos. Brutal Swing is going to connect, and that does deal some pretty substantial damage. Rock Slide fired off in retaliation by the Lunatone. Rock Slide is going to land, not doing a ton of damage, but Rock Slide number 2 fired immediately after. The opponent does not have to shield this. They actually do end up shielding. They're farming up quite a bit, so a nice overfarm there from the opponent, and they will be able to deliver a knockout onto Lunatone. And now it's up to Licky to try and sweep in the endgame. Licky, no shielding as the move from Ampharos here. They actually have Return. I was going to say it's not a particularly threatening move, but they have Return. Are you kidding me? Return Ampharos. I mentioned the Purified Aura because I was surprised it was purified, but apparently it was purified for a reason. Return absolutely slapped the Licky. And that just removed any win con in this game. Oh my goodness. The opponent breaking out the Return Spice. One battle after Moonblast eviscerated a Guzzlord. The next opponent is able to get their revenge. Nightmare lead in the next match. Pangoro into Florges. We see the safe switch Licky answered with a Shadow Rhyperior. Ultra League Shadow Rhyperior is something that I'm starting to see more and more. People are wanting that extreme Mud Slap damage, and the fact that a high rank Shadow Rhyperior can actually live in Aqua Tail from Shadow Drapion is something that it appears people are quite the fan of. But in this instance, the Shadow Rockwrecker plus the Mud Slaps barely does not KO, and the opponent is forced to actually give up both shields. Unfortunately, Pangoro did lag on bringing. Opponent is going to aggressively pivot into the Florges, and there's a quick switch into Lunatone. Lunatone going to be met with a Disarming Voice. Not going to do a ton of damage. Lunatone could tank a second Disarming Voice, but that's going to be asking a lot of Pangoro to try and sweep in the endgame. Lunatone going for the Moonblast. Let's see the bulk on this Florges. Moonblast is going to land. Florges actually tanks that pretty comfortably. And now this is going to be difficult. Do you just let it go? The answer is yes. It's Pangoro versus the world. Pangoro will have a shield and of course a small chance at a boost with this Night Slash. The Night Slash boost does not come through, but it's a Shadow for Alligator. Opponent is going to send in Rhyperior. Rhyperior is going to get absolutely deleted with a close combat. And unfortunately for that poor Feraligatr is about to suffer much the same fate. Feraligatr Hydro Cannon is going to grab the final shield from Pangoro. Pangoro going for the close combat, and this should just about pick up the knockout. Feraligatr barely hanging on, but it does not survive the Karate Chops, and Pangoro was actually able to fully get the 1v3 endgame sweep. Pangoro versus Malamar. As the Pangoro, I do like to typically just go straight close combat because you can inflict some very solid damage. It ends up being a cap tie on a superpower, so we will see a shield from Pangoro. Opponent not switching out, which is a bit of a surprise, as they are now debuffed. We are going to see the Night Slash. That's going to grab the shield from the Malamar, quick switch into Licky, and Licky's more than happy to take a -1 superpower. That is going to connect. Opponent is going to switch out, and there is Steelix. Steelix hitting the field of play, but Steelix not running the moveset that you might expect. This is a Dragon Tail Steelix. Steelix almost always this season running Thunderfang with the buff to Thunderfang. Steelix has emerged as an absolute force to be reckoned with. I know a few battlers are still on Dragon Tail just for the surprise factor. Speaking of surprise, there's a quick switch back into Pangoro. Pangoro going to no shield as Steelix will go for the breaking swipe, fishing for a debuff. It does not happen, and in the back is Tentacruel. Tentacruel, if it gets a lot of energy, that could be devastating for Lunatone. We see a boost from Pangoro. There we go. And now this is going to be a +2 close combat. Opponent is going to give up a shield. And now, with no shields to hide behind for the opponent, in comes the Lunatone, but first there's a devastating catch onto Licky. Scald will pick up the KO. It's Lunatone versus the world, but unfortunately Lunatone is going to get outpaced here. The Tentacruel had so much residual energy. Opponent is going to send in Malamar, hard to Psywave down a Dark Psychic type, so Rock Slide will come through and pick up that KO. So the Malamar has been removed from the field of play. In comes Tentacruel. Can Tentacruel get farmed down? No! The Tentacruel tanks it on 1 HP, but it's only an Acid Spray. That's only an Acid Spray. In comes the Steelix, and this is going to be a fight to the finish. Lunatone now debuffed, able to land the Moonblast. Lunatone trying to get to the move. If it's a crunch, this game is over. If it's a breaking swipe, it might be survivable, and the Lunatone that can, oh my goodness, against all odds, KOs Steelix to clutch an improbable win. We move to the next game, Pangoro versus Skeledirge. Now that's a Pokemon that I haven't seen in quite some time. Pangoro striking first with a Night Slash. 4 is solid timing. Throwing on 7 here would be preferred. We do see the safe switch to Licky. And there is Annihilape, and this is very unfortunate. Licky just gets absolutely crushed here. The Body Slam bait is successful, and now the Shadow Ball is reached, and it's going to be on a CMP tie. Opponent went for a Rage Fist, so now they're boosted, but unfortunately that did basically no damage. Shadow Ball lands, that's solid damage, but it's not enough to pick up the knockout. The opponent throwing more energy. If this is a Rage Fist, it still will not KO, and the opponent has honestly, in my view, very much mismanaged that mid-game matchup. It should be a dominant matchup for the Annihilape, but the way they played it made it so it almost looked like Licky was the favorite Pokemon there. Skeledirge versus Lunatone now. Lunatone is going to be double shielding. It is going to be the disarming voice. Lunatone going for the Rock Slide, just trying to get rid of the Skeledirge as quickly as possible. Rock Slide is going to pick up the KO. In the back is going to be Ampharos, and there is quite a bit of energy on the Lunatone. Can Lunatone get to double Rock Slide here? It's going to be close. Can't quite get there, but gets a catch onto Licky. Very nicely done. It is going to be the Trailblaze, and now this is a boosted Ampharos, which is a very scary thing. Unfortunately, Ampharos is going to get a free Volt Switch through as Pangoro goes for the Night Slash. Pangoro does get the boost, and the opponent is going to throw energy. They're going to go for the Trailblaze. That's going to KO Pangoro, but there was so much residual energy on Lunatone that Lunatone makes the Rock Slide, KOs the Ampharos, and is able to secure the victory. Hopping into what I believe is the final match, Pangoro versus Drapion. This is a good lead. It is the non-Shadow Drapion, which is a surprise, but Pangoro does do quite well here, able to shake off Aqua Tails very comfortably. This Drapion is on Sludge Bomb. Even so, that's not really a problem for Pangoro, and the Sludge Bomb pacing is not fast. So we're actually going to see a switch out here, banking the energy, sending in Licky. Licky more than happy to tank a move from a non-Shadow Drapion. They're going to go for Sludge Bomb once again, and Licky is going to look to overfarm before picking up the KO with Body Slam. Body Slam is going to KO the Drapion. Opponent now going to send in Zygarde. Zygarde definitely not what you're hoping to see with this team, as this team has, outside of Moonblast on Lunatone, no way of hitting it for super effective damage. Zygarde is going to fire off energy. We see the no shield from Licky. It is going to be the Crunch, and now a quick switch back into Pangoro. Pangoro firing off the close combat. Close combat is going to inflict solid neutral damage. Opponent will commit the shield, and now, honestly, still with a third Pokemon that we don't know what it is. This is a lot to ask of Lunatone. In comes Lunatone, immediately met with a Crunch from the Zygarde. Crunch does not get the debuff, thank goodness, able to make the Moonblast. Does the opponent know about the coverage move? Going for the Moonblast, it connects, down goes Zygarde, but the happiness is short-lived as it's a Feraligatr in the back, and that's not what you're hoping to see. Feraligatr, these Shadow Claws are adding up substantially. Rock Slide is reached, but this move just does not do a lot of damage. The Rock Slide is going to be shielded, farming up a ton. There's a switch into Licky. Licky had energy, but the only way Lunatone was getting to a move was with this catch. Lunatone has to hope that a Moonblast will be enough. It all comes down to this. This is the non-Shadow Gator. It's a Moonblast, and the Feraligatr barely hangs on. Oh my goodness, that is devastating. Lunatone almost with an incredibly clutch 1v3, but falls just short. All in all, these were some extremely fun battles, so many thanks for sending them in. When it comes to Psywave users, I remember Malamar getting it, and then due to a battle submission, I learned Miss Magius got it, and now I'll have to check and see if there's any more Pokemon that get Psywave, because apparently I somehow just missed when a bunch of Pokemon got access to Psywave. But Psywave, I would love to see it have a wider distribution. Maybe something like Psywave Bronzong could be really cool, but let me know down in the comments. If there was one Psychic type in the game that isn't Mewtwo, Psywave Mewtwo would be a disaster. If there's one Psychic type in the game that isn't Mewtwo that you would want to get Psywave, what is it? And let me know your ideas. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you're enjoying the content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you as always to our members here on YouTube. The support guys provide is genuinely so appreciated. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.